Hi everyone, today's interview is with one of my friends, Helen Hurd. We've known each other from the music scene for quite a long time. She's a little rock star, always on stage singing her heart out, wearing really cool rock and roll clothes. And since I've known her, she's actually decided to become a sound healer as well and uses lots of different instruments to heal the body with resonance. So, hi Helen.
Hi, I'm wearing a polo neck now instead. My sound healing guys.
I know it's normally black and leather and chains and real rock and roll clothes, but today she's in her Sunday chills. Okay, so Helen, why don't you tell everyone about what sound healing is? For those who don't know, just give us an introduction to sound healing, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, sure. So very briefly, sound healing is a form of energy healing. It works using playing instruments in certain ways. So they send frequencies to the brain. They will manipulate your brain waves by it's a process called entrainment. And it will put you into certain states depending on what you want, a relaxed state or a more stimulated state. And within those states, that promotes healing or gives you, we might go into this a bit, I'm trying to do it really quickly, but it will either promote healing physically or it will help you understand, if you've got anxiety, what you might need to do to process that, or what you might need to do in your life to get over whatever it is. We call it a construct, whatever construct you're suffering from.
Lovely. And sound's always been used from tribal times onwards. There's always the beating of drums, and it can get you into altered states as well. Altered states of consciousness. Sound is very, very useful for that. And I mean, I'm sure every single person watching this is very aware that if you listen to a sad song, it can make you cry. It brings you into the moment. Or, we've all been out dancing, listened to our favorite song, and it's just filled us with energy and with life.
That's it. That's 100% it. You've got, so if you want to cry during a song, if a song moves you to tears, that's you experiencing entrainment on an emotional level. If you stand in front of a speaker and you feel the bass in your body, that's entrainment on a physical level. And it's a similar thing. Obviously, it's not quite as intense, or the way I play, it's not as intense as having a speaker with a bass in front of you, but it's exactly that principle.
Nice, isn't it? So yeah, so right from tribal times, there have always been instruments. There have always been various different ways. I mean, from voice, because what you play various different instruments. Voice is one of them. You've got sound bowls, you've got chimes, you've got that. What's that funny thing behind you?
So this is a monochord. This is my favorite instrument, actually. This is a double-sided monochord. You can get single-sided ones. You can get monochord seats, which I really want, where the client sits on one side and you play the other side, and so they do feel the vibrations in their body, which I'd really love to try. But this is a double-sided monochord, and you've got 30 strings on each
Do you want to
side.
show us the side of it as well so we can see what it is? Because this is an instrument I'm unfamiliar with. I mean, I think a lot of people will have seen chimes and bowls and things, but this is
Yeah.
a rare one, I think.
So you've got 60 strings, no, 30 strings on this side, and then on the other side, another 30.
Is it a bit like a harp or something different-ish?
You play it like a harp, but it's
Mm.
not. So all these strings, oh God, hitting my crystal ball at the same time, that's not good. So all these strings, it's called a monochord, which it's attributed back to Pythagoras, and mono is obviously one. So originally it was just one string, and this is obviously not one string, this is a lot, but they're all tuned to one note. So these, I haven't tuned it, I'm so sorry, this is out of tune, but these strings are all tuned to one note. I've got F on one side and C on the other. And when you tune it, you try and get it as close to the note as possible, but there are certain scents either side of the pitch. It's very hard to get a perfect, apart from the crystal bars, which we'll talk about later. Very hard to get like a perfect sine wave. So as you play it, you get these tiny differentiations between the pitch, and it creates these overtones. And what happens is it's like a drone instrument. So you just strum it. I'll play it, but it's out of tune. See, there's a bass
I hear it.
side.
I can hear it.
Did you not hear it?
No.
Let me try and play it a bit louder. I wouldn't normally play it this loud, but just so that you could hear it. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So as you play it and you play both sides together, the room just fills with these other frequencies and overtones. And to me personally, it sounds like a cathedral. It just sounds like a choir singing in a cathedral. I can't, you have to experience it. But on each side as well, I should explain, there's a bass note. So this is all, wait, which side am I? So this is the F side. And then, so these are all F, but this is an F as well, but it's an octave lower. So you've got a bass note on each side, and we use those as part of the process to get someone deeper into ASC. So there's just a technique that you use with those, but generally
ASC being altered state of consciousness, assumedly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a drone instrument. It is, in my experience, probably the most powerful instrument that I have in my repertoire. It helps really well. I've had a lot of success with physical pain, but it also really works with anxiety and any other emotional issues as well.
Wow.
Love it. Love it so
It's a
much.
really fun instrument, isn't it? What else have you got there? Go on, show us some of your bowls and
So
some of
I've
your
got-
chimes and other bits and bobs.
I've got a crystal ball that I nearly dropped, that I nearly hit with the monochord. So this, most people, I guess, will be familiar with this. This is a crystal bowl. It's made with quartz crystal. And the thing with crystal bowls is that you can't tune them, they are set. So they're made to a pitch. And sometimes, again, there's a few cents off. So I've got an F bowl that's perfect. It's perfect, F, 0 cents either side. I've got a C bowl that's like 30 cents. So, it's very off, but it doesn't really matter because of the way you use them. But so they vary, but you can't tune them once you've got them. This is an E, this one, and you play it. I'm holding it, so it's not how I would normally play it, but just so you can see. I sing it with a crystal rod, and it's a pure sine wave. So there's no overtones. It's pure. It's the only instrument that will give you just a pure tone and no other overtones or anything. I hope you can hear this as well. I'll try and play it loud.
Can't hear it. Tiny bit, it's very quiet.
Yeah, it's hard to see. For me, it's incredibly loud. It's I'm still experimenting with microphones and how to get it across on a virtual level, but it's a shame you can't hear it very well, but they sound.
We did. It went loud at the end. It was just quiet in the beginning, and then suddenly it was booming.
Yeah, you can play them incredibly dynamically, and with these, because you can't, because there's no overtones, you play them together, so you create intervals with them, and there's a whole psychology behind intervals. So, like, for example, a minor second would be like the Jaws, da 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 da. If you play those two together, it can make you feel a bit uncomfortable. And then a perfect fifth is just, they call the sonic cuddle. It's the nicest, most comforting of all the intervals. So you design a session around the client and what you think they need.
Interesting.
It's on the floor, bear with me.
Put that on the floor, yeah. And what else have you got there? You got some chimes, did you say?
Got my koshi chimes.
What's a koshi chime? What does koshi mean? Ooh, wooden chimes.
They're wooden, but they've got little metal. I don't know if you can see little metal, and they're all tuned. And then there's a little glass. I want to say knocker. I'm not sure that's the technical word, but it knocks the metal. So I'm
like a door knocker, yeah.
This one is aria. So this is air. They're all the elements. There's 4 of them: earth, air, fire, and water. Can you hear that? This is minor. This is a minor scale. And then earth. This is earth. That's a major scale. So again, it's very dependent on what the client needs as to what one you would choose to use, but they're often used at the end of the session to start to very gently bring the client out of an altered state of consciousness. If they're very deep into relaxation, you don't want to suddenly go, hey, session's over. You need to like
Bring them back. Yeah.
gradually bring them back. And we use those chimes, but they're so beautiful. I love them. Absolutely love them. I want to create a piece of music around them because they just sound so lovely together.
Yeah, that's fun. And then you also use voice as well. So you do some singing. How does that all work? Or do you do chanting, or what does voice mean?
It's not singing. It's very much not singing because I think there's that confusion because I'm a singer as well that people think I'm going to sing at them. It's
To them, not at them.
feels like it's at them. It's toning. Initially you start a session toning just on a different vowel sound, and different vowel sounds correspond to the different parts of the body. So again, depending on which I think is quite well known with chakras, you know, there's certain vowel sounds with certain chakras, aren't there? It's similar concept. So depending on the client's construct and what they need depends on what vowels you choose. And again, you go up, so you start on a nice low pitch and then you move up, because low pitches are more relaxing, higher pitches are more stimulating. So again, depending on what the client needs, depends on what pitches you use. And after toning, you then start going into overtoning, which is strange. I can try and demonstrate. So what you're trying to do is sing more than it's chant, it's singing, toning more than one note at the same time. So, okay, if I went I'm not sure how it's coming across virtually.
It's making my body vibrate, so it's working.
But you can hear, I don't know if you could hear, there's with my voice particularly, I don't have a huge amount of control over it. There's that low note, the main one, and then there's a very high pitch coming in over the top. And yeah, so okay, that had that effect on you. If you're doing that for 40 minutes, it can really put the client into quite a deep state of relaxation. And some clients have said it sounds like you know, a proper instrument. It doesn't sound like it's coming from a human. It becomes quite abstract, I guess. But the thing about the voice is, because it's so personal, it's very, very personal. So it's quite a lovely one to hold the client, someone who really needs something quite gentle, who, you know, the crystal bowls are amazing, but they sound very alien. And if that can be uncomfortable for some people, whereas the voice is a very gentle, calming instrument. So again, it just depends on the client, but the overtones, I mean, that's something, you know, you heard, I can't do it, but you know, like Mongolian throat singing, have you heard? That's the same thing. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I haven't learned that. No one's taught me that, because that's all right down here. I'm not sure I'd know how to do that safely, but it's the same principle. This is just an easier, safer way of overtoning.
Monks do it as well. Is that the same sort of thing that monks do?
So yeah. I mean, it's the most ancient, isn't it? I mean, we were chanting before we could speak, before we had language. I mean, this is
Okay.
primal. This goes way back. So yeah, I think I don't use it as much. I don't know. I resonate more towards the monochord and the crystal bowls, but it really does. And there's something, forgive me, but there is something about, there's a connotation about, you know, someone standing over you just going, oh, in your face. Some people might have some resistance to, so I am aware of that. But it is actually a really powerful instrument.
Nice. Wow. It's great. So do you play anything else, or is that all of them?
That's it for now. I'm
Quite a lot.
definitely getting on to gong. I've got I'm learning gong in March because I have to. And I really want to experiment more with drum. we have the drum can be played over the body, and again you feel the vibrations. It's very physical, and I think I found it incredibly powerful for myself. So it's, and again, that's a really tribal, that's one of the most ancient instruments as well. So it's something that I really, really want to look into more. So there's so many things, it's just time and getting there. But yeah, gong is top of my list because the gong is amazing. And I think when most people think about a sound bath, or they think about gong, they see the, you know, the big hanging gong, and it is an incredibly dynamic and powerful instrument. So top of my list, and then drum.
And then drums. Wow. Okay, so we were talking a minute ago about the Hertz resonance. So anyone who's watching this channel may be aware that there's this whole rumors within spirituality about the pitch, is it, of 528?
528 hertz. So
528 Hertz.
this is something
Yeah.
you pay attention.
Yeah, so I told Helen about this a while ago because basically I always hear that things are supposed to be played at 528 Hertz for the optimal healing and the optimal well-being of people. And that what happened, there's a conspiracy around it. I'm not entirely sure how it all works. But the rumor has it that the instruments got changed so that they were no longer helping people, and actually they were hindering people, so that a lot of the music that people listen to these days, especially pop music, is somehow out of sync with the body, so that actually it doesn't heal you and make you feel very well. In fact, it just actually is a bit disjointing and a bit damaging to people in some way. So apparently the instruments got changed sometime last century, to make it so that there's a dissonance in it. The resonance is just somehow a little bit off, but not that noticeably off, and that is actually damaging to people, where it used to be healing. Like all music used to be tuned in this particular way to make it very, very healing for people, and the nefarious people decided that was no good for us, and we should have damaging it should be damaging to us in some way. So what do you know about this, Helen?
Well, as I say, you brought this to my attention, and I did a bit of research into it, because it's not, I have learned, not with specific frequencies, but literally just low pitch is relaxing, high pitch is stimulating. You know, this is a C bowl, this is an A bowl, and intervals between that. Now, I looked into this because I was interested, and it's and again, you've just enlightened me a little more with that pop music thing that I didn't actually know about. So 528 Hertz it's as far as I understand it, and forgive me if someone's an expert out there and knows way more, I'm just...
Tell us in the comments below, because you know we want to know more about this. So if you know more, get on the show as well. You can talk to me about it or comment below, or both. We want to know more.
Yeah, I do. I want to know much more. So please correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I've understood, it's part of a thing called the solfeggio frequencies. Hope I pronounced that right. My partner is Italian. He will hate me if I haven't. But the solfeggio frequencies, and I believe there's 7 of them, and 528 Hertz is one of them. And the reason it's become a big thing is because it's called the love frequency. So it's supposed to be one of the most healing. It can repair, it has the ability to repair DNA, whatever that means. Sounds quite, you might know more about that. But it's called the love frequency because it I believe induces feelings of calm and love and peace. But what's interesting, and what you said about the music, the modern music, is that to get to 528 Hertz, it doesn't exist in standard tuning. So standard tuning, and again, I'm a singer, I don't play, other than these, I don't really play an instrument. So standard tuning, I hope I've got this right, is 440 Hertz. So a C, no, wait, an A, I think it's an A. An A is 440 Hertz. So when you go to a concert and the violinist plays a note and then the whole orchestra tunes to that note, they're all tuning to each other, and there's a standard tuning. And we can change that. We can just go, I don't want that as standard tuning anymore. I want this. So to get to a note at 528 Hertz, you have to change standard tuning to something else. And then it will be on our octave. Then it becomes, I think it's a C. if you, well, it depends what you change it to, but it, you know, at the moment, it's not like you look at a piano and you go, right, if I play a C sharp, or if I play, I'll get 528 hertz. You won't. You have to change the standard tuning of the whole piano to get. So it doesn't. So it's interesting what you say, because it won't really exist in popular music, because it's not, unless you change the tuning.
Apparently they did. They made it off
What they
so
did.
that it didn't help. So it would, instead of healing people, it would be damaging to people in some way.
Yeah. So it's, I've actually now, yesterday, treated myself to a 528 hertz crystal bowl. So I'm hoping that will arrive in the next few weeks, because
I might
I
have
was
to get you
told,
back on to play it for us and
I,
experience it.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything I read about it, I was completely sold. I mean, what they did say, and I do think this is true, is that we can say, okay, it's the most healing, but every human body is made up of different substances in different amounts.
But
And
I
it,
think it's aligned with I think it's aligned with the frequency of the planet, though. I think there's, you know, the Schumann resonance. There's something to do with the Schumann resonance and this Hertz, and there's something around that
well,
I'm
that
not
would
highly
make
educated
sense.
in this, but it's something. I think that's what has just come to me. Either someone told me that, or higher self has just told me it. There's something to do with the Schumann resonance, the resonance of our cells, and how everything vibrates within our body, and our own personal
We should
harmonic.
resonate. Yeah, we should resonate with the earth, and we never do, because we wear rubber-soled shoes, so we never touch the ground, we never earth ourselves, and we've got Wi-Fi and God knows what flying around, and it interferes with our, what should be our natural resonance. So we never, unless you go out walking for 10 minutes on barefoot, you hardly ever ground yourself and get yourself back to that natural resonance. So that would make sense. But they do say that, you know, yes, it might be the most healing, but everyone is different, and you have to go with what feels good to you as a person.
Well, I mean, but then you're saying that it's got its own octave range anyway, so there are all these different notes, like which fit into that. What were you calling it? That funny Italian name? So,
Arpeggio frequencies.
but there's different notes within that with different hertz. Is that how it is? Because you said that
So
there
there
was
are different. So there are different frequencies. I don't know what they are, but there are 7 frequencies. They were
7.
used in like ancient Gregorian chants. They were used, you know, by our ancestors.
I think I know. So what's coming to me as well about this, because there's 7 different sounds coming out of it. I think that they might have been telekinesis as well. I think that's part of why they've been suppressed and hidden, because it looks like, I mean, like, for example, the pyramids. How the heck did they manage to move these whopping great big stones that we can't even, like, with our modern machinery, it's an impossibility to move them now. I mean, you see, I saw a video the other day of of like a JCB and a crane and things like that. They all just topple. They just cannot deal with the size of the stones in the Great Pyramid. And then you've also got, if you've been to Peru, which I have, the stones there have melted into one another. They've literally merged with each other. And I've got a whole thing about solid liquid gas, which is about diseases becoming different forms. And if you can melt the sword and the stone by when they did the sword and the stone, what they did was Merlin did that, put a sword in a stone because he wanted the person who was to be king of England to be able to remove the sword from the stone. And that means you have mastery of solid liquid gas, which means you can liquefy stone, and that you'd be able to do that yourself. So what he did was, because all the difference in a solid and a liquid is about how compressed the molecules are.
Yeah.
Because obviously a liquid is like, yeah, it's when it gets denser, it cools down and slows down from gas to a liquid to a solid. So if you are enlightened, I think it's basically what enlightened, well, it's one of the, if you can do this, you're enlightened, to liquefy a stone. And they put a sword inside a stone, and then they can pour this, and then they can like let it set again, and then you go from a solid to a liquid, you know, the liquid goes into a
Mhm.
solid. So I think that's what they would do, but you have to be enlightened to do it. And they did this as well with the Peru. So I think that when you're enlightened, you can actually liquefy stone, and you can do instant healing of diseases. They've got a lot of people in Tibet. They've got people have got handprints and footprints into stone where they've melted the stone. They've got actually got hand and footprints, and some of them are huge, like giants. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But I think that when you're enlightened, you can do that. And I think a long time ago people were significantly more enlightened, and I think we've de-evolved largely.
100%. I absolutely agree. Yeah, we
So I
have.
think that so an enlightened person can liquefy stone by choosing to liquefy stone because they're enlightened, they have that ability. And I think that if they didn't do that, the people who are slightly more recent history were using instruments to do it, which is
Yeah.
where I was trying to get to. So I think that they would. So you can do it if you're enlightened, and then you can do it with instruments. So what's coming to me now is just my higher self talking to me that if you have from this from the seven different notes from this Hertz thing. I don't really understand sound well enough to explain it properly, but if you use that combination of those seven different notes, you can probably make things levitate and liquefy stone, is what's coming to me. I think that's why it's been hidden. So I think we should play around with this and get all
Well,
the other bowls
it
or
is all
something.
about, it is all about free. I mean, so frequencies, it's about energy. It's just about energy manipulation. And that's with sound, specifically what I'm doing is manipulating the frequency of the brainwaves. But presumably you could manipulate any energy.
Well, if you think about the pitch that you can have which can shatter glass, there is that you can
Yeah,
do that. There are things we've seen that exists.
that's sympathetic resonance. But for any kind of entrainment to happen, sympathetic resonance. So if you, just to briefly explain sympathetic resonance, if you put a load of clocks in a room together that have a pendulum that swings, right? So you just put them and you set them all and they're all swinging at different times. Eventually what will happen is they will sync with each other, because what they do is they borrow or they give energy to each other via sympathetic resonance, and they will eventually all start to, the pendulums will start to synchronize and they will all swing at the same time. That's sympathetic resonance. That's what, if you walk across, there was that, when I was learning physics years ago at school, we were taught, if those soldiers march over a bridge and they hit the sympathetic resonance of the bridge will swing and collapse.
Right.
Because because you're hitting, the vibrations are hitting the sympathetic resonance of the bridge that will cause it to.
Yeah, they have to walk in a different way. They're not allowed to march. They have to do like a break step or something, like a funny stepping.
Yeah, they just break step because otherwise there's that danger. So it's a thing. I mean, it's a real thing. So there is absolutely no reason why. I mean, we use it all the time. I was reading an article about oh God, I can't remember what they were called, but in ancient theatre, they had these vases hidden around the audience. So in amphitheatres, they put them under the seats, and it's suspected, it's not proven, but it's suspected they would put them in certain ways, and they'd be certain sizes and positioned in certain places around the amphitheatre to help amplify the sound before we had microphones and speakers and everything.
I always wondered how the heck can you hear the person who's on stage without, I mean, they can project their voice, but only so much.
Because it's all, I mean, and the shape of an amphitheatre was for that as well. That was the whole principle of and theatres still use that, you use the shape to help amplify the sound for the acoustics. We use it all the time. We just don't make the connection, I guess.
I reckon there's a way, but I think that's what I think that level of levitation is to do. There's definitely something to do with sound and levitation. It's something, that's been spoken about, but I think that from the basis of the 528 hertz, then it's playing the right notes at the right times and just making the right melody in some capacity, but using those notes, I think, is actually how you make that. And I think it could do a lot for healing as well. I think it'd be really, really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sound and music. I mean, music is a different therapy, and that's a whole other thing. I love music and I work in music, but I haven't gone down music therapy route yet. I've just done sound, but music is a progression of that. And
what's the difference between sound therapy and music therapy?
Well, so sound therapy is toning, so it's tones, and music is tones put together in a pattern to create a melody. So it's just another level of tones, I guess, but it's putting them into certain sequences. So I mean, in fact, my tutor was part of the group that I'm trying to remember the name of. That it could have been about 10 years ago now, actually, but they Marconi something. They created the most relaxing, supposedly the most scientifically relaxing piece of music
Oh,
Um, and yeah, I mean, technically you could create music to, well, people do. I mean, you can create music to manipulate a person into a certain state. I mean, it's powerful. It's very
there's
powerful.
also, I mean, I don't know if it's an old wives' tale, but well, first of all, we've got like, white noise and pink noise and green noises of nature, like nature sounds, or one of them is isn't it the sort of the background noise, which people find the white noise is sort of background noise. But there's also, according to legend, brown noise.
I love brown noise. Brown
Oh
noise is
no, no,
age.
no, 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 but there's a dodgy brown
Oh,
noise.
really? Oh,
Probably not. Maybe it's not.
maybe
Maybe
it's
it's
not
not.
that one.
I don't think it's the same one, or maybe I've just, been fooled. But allegedly, there's a particular tone that you can do which makes people poo themselves. Didn't think that was coming out of my mouth, did you? Yeah. Apparently,
Especially when I said I love brown noise.
I think it's a different sort of. I'm assuming it's a different sort of brown noise.
Not happened to me. Just I mean, I meditate to brown noise, and I'm not had that experience, so maybe it's different.
I think there must be a different one, and that's why it's called brown noise for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and it could be a fallacy. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's just could be an old wives' tale. It could be funny, but allegedly they did this in a nightclub years ago, and they decided to test it out, and everyone had to rush to the loo, and it was all a big mess. So,
But it's wholly possible, because it is all about, what I do is I listen to the client, hear what's happening in their body at that moment, and realistic, I can really only treat what's going on at that moment. They might say, oh, I can't sleep, but unless we can make a connection between why they can't sleep and how they're feeling at the moment, I can just treat what's in the room. But it might help towards their lack of sleep, because it might be something in the room that's stopping them sleeping, for example. So I'm taking what they're telling me, and I'm trying to change it. I'm trying to, or help them find a way to change it. I mean, I've had someone with osteoarthritis, and it took a few sessions, but she was pain-free by the end of the session.
wow.
And that's chronic pain that's been going on for years and years and years. It's wholly possible that you could probably prompt someone to to have to go to the bathroom. I'm sure it is. I'm not sure I want to experiment with it too much.
I don't know. I think it said it's illegal to use it I think there was potentially going to be using it in warfare. And they're like, I think there's an embargo not to use it. Well, you're not going to be fighting on a battlefield if you need the loo, are you?
I think that's a much better way than guns.
It's not a bad way to win a war. Just bring some speakers.
That's amazing.
I know, I went off on a tangent there, but it's all about sound.
Interesting though, we're just going, as we're talking about war, I find it quite interesting that drums and well, it was mainly drums actually, but instruments were used at the beginning of war. And the island, the Pacific Islanders have the haka,
Things.
yeah, and the chanting and everything, just to rally.
Haka's really intense. It's really, really. I met a guy in Fiji, and he went to a Kiwi school, and each school has their own haka. So before they do rugby matches, they all do these, these war dances for one another. And I made him do me one in person. This is 20 years ago, but I made him do it, and it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's really intense, like, because they bring everything to it. It's amazing seeing it on the telly, but when you actually see it in real life, it's strong, and it's the movements, and it's the drumming, and it's the sounds, and it's just so it's
manipulating. It's exactly the same. It's all the same thing. It's just how you use it.
It's really intense. It's beautiful.
Yeah. But I actually, just going back to the trialing in a nightclub and everyone having to run to the toilet, there's also something about the collectiveness of doing everyone in the same room, because music can make everyone breathe, or everyone's breath synchronize, or their heartbeat synchronize, and that's why live is so important and so
nourishing.
Yes, because it's the only time where as a community we're all together, breathing together, and so it's kind of, I don't know, just found it interesting, because it makes an entire body of people do something rather than an individual. There's
Yeah.
something very powerful in that.
Live music's amazing. I do like, there's a party called Morning Glory, which I've been to a number of times, and it's a sober rave. And that's really interesting to see people who are completely sober. It's
In the
really
morning.
cool.
In the
Yeah,
morning.
they do it in the morning, and they serve kombucha and juices, and everything's very, very healthy, and it's before work, and it's really interesting going to a nightclub without having any drinks because
But I wonder as well how it affects their performance at work. I
well,
imagine it.
it's really interesting because initially, when I first started going, I mean, it was 10 years ago, I'd only ever really been to nightclubs and had a few drinks to be there. And so you're sort of dancing without any Dutch courage within you. And
Yeah.
then you're like, because I sort of was like a really big clubber and I used to dance on podiums at clubs and things. And then I got all posh and I was always on tables at nightclubs. And then this is what happened. But I've got more into live gigs and things like that. But that's what happened. And then I was like, no, just sort of was a bit strange dancing without alcohol. And actually, once you sort of get over yourself, it's just really, really fun and much more freeing and much more beautiful. But it is strange doing that initially. But then everyone is syncing with each other because no one's drunk. The DJ's got much more control of the crowd, and they're saying everybody sort of crouch down, everybody jump up, everyone do little acrobatics or whatever, and it's really engaged, and it's everyone as one, and it's so different than it is having people having alcohol because everyone's in different states of consciousness. But when everyone's together and everyone's following the music, it's the same sort of music, but then they've got often have bongos and live bits and bobs as well. But it's all the house music that I always used to club to, but that the happy, easy breezy handbag house, which is a soulful house and lyrical. I like the house where they sing. I don't really like it without words, but it's really uplifting music, and it really brings everybody together in the same way I guess a concert would. But be interesting to do a concert without anyone drinking, because maybe people be even more unified.
Yeah. And I think TFL's missing a trick. I've always thought that they should turn the underground into a silent disco. I mean, everyone's plugged in anyway. You just give them all headphones and tell them all to dance on their way to work. I think life would be so much better.
Well, they wouldn't need to give everybody headphones. They just need to have a station, like a radio station everyone could get to from their phones.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone dances on the trains. I think everyone would be much happier when they turn up to work.
Well, actually, TFL, it's really interesting going on the tube. And I mean, I've just moved out of London, well, a year ago now. God, it's been a year. I can't believe it's been a year. Yeah, but I got on I never really went in rush hour anywhere because I would work from home. So I never really had a purpose to do so. But I went there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, holy moly, I could just feel the depression and anxiety that everyone was just radiating. It's a miserable place.
But this is the problem. We've got into this vicious cycle of negative energy, and it's being fed constantly. I don't watch the news anymore. I cannot. I just don't want it in my bubble. I can't deal with it. It's too dramatic and it's too negative. There's always a negative spin on everything, and it's something that we're being fed to the point that we almost feel like life is supposed to be hard work.
Well,
And
it's fear porn, and it is fear porn. And then they have the saying, "What bleeds leads." So the more dramatic it is, the more upsetting it is to watch. The more sort of it's like
okay,
this rubbernecking in a car crash. It's like easy things aren't so engaging. Something really horrifying is engaging, and then you've got this. So many people these days are watching things about serial killers.
oh my God, there's so many of them.
I never watched them, but it's not good for your mental health. It's
No,
not to be aligned with murder. I
yeah,
mean, really.
yeah.
And not in a Hollywood way as well. I mean, the Hollywood movies are bad enough where they're killing a gazillion people, but when it's actually a true story, I think it makes it all the more.
And I think people think that they're escaping. It's like, a form of escapism, but I don't think they realize,
Escape into hell.
yeah, the energy and how it's maybe transferring into their everyday life.
It will
And
give
then,
you anxiety. It will
yeah,
give you anxiety, definitely, because you may not be, subconsciously you may be thinking that guy on the bus, maybe he's a murderer or something. You've got that mindset if you're reminded of it all the time. And also, if you're watching it last thing at night, it's going to affect your dreams. The
Yeah.
last 10 minutes before you go to sleep is really what can get people affected in their
Well, like
dreams.
all the 80s movies, like the John Hughes movies, they were all just feel good movies. It was all just about feeling good, and that's why they are so great, and they're still great. And the all the musicals that came out, post-war, just to make people feel better. We need more of those. We need more feel good films that and TV shows that aren't full of.
Well, I mean, there's also, there are conspiracies on this, and why is it in a lot of Disney movies that someone's parents dies? Bambi's parents die, a lot of the movies, even from our generation, they've got some parent dying. And I think that will, Watership Down was just horrifying. I don't know why that was a
Watership
kid's.
Down, that killed me when I was a kid.
I know, it was devastating.
So,
Yeah, but a lot of movies they have where a parent dies, and that's a very odd thing, and it almost normalizes parents dying and freaks the children out. And I just don't see the purpose of necessarily doing that unless it's done in a nefarious way. You
yeah,
know,
I agree.
it's strange.
It seems to have got worse as well post-pandemic, dare I mention it, but I think it's become an everyday thing of life, just scaremongering. And we're all accepting it, which I really struggle to understand. And even the conspiracy theories, even that is still, something to obsess over, and to it's still them versus us, or us versus them.
Well, I mean, I think, look, I like to be well informed, and actually, a lot of the conspiracy have been proving right. It just seems that the people are saying these things are actually ahead of the curve, and they actually brought that term out when Kennedy was shot to sort of divide people and say anyone who didn't go with the narrative, which is clearly not true. They've just brought out some files on it. It clearly wasn't. The CIA did it. There's no doubt. And anyone who was questioning the narrative was then called a conspiracy theorist. So, they brought that out just to quash anyone who was doing any independent journalism or looking into things in a different way. But what's interesting about it as well is it's nice to be informed, but it shouldn't be the only thing. Like, I think we do need to know what's going on. But if we are going down rabbit holes and being obsessive about it and it's affecting our mental health, then we need to take a break. Whenever anything is affecting your mental health, step away and take a little bit of time for yourself, and then go back to it when you feel like you're mentally able to do it, because you can't pour from an empty cup. There's a reason they tell you to put your gas mask on first, sorry, your oxygen mask on first on an aeroplane. It's because when you're not full, when you're not okay, you're not going to be able to be of service to anyone else.
It's
So
so true. And that is, we almost are scared to take time for ourselves. I actually had a client in the room who came. She said she felt guilty for spending money on herself.
yeah.
That is, and again, that's a cultural thing that we have been taught, that we shouldn't be selfish. We shouldn't be spending money on ourselves. We need to think about others. Yeah, I mean, there's a place for that, of course, but yeah, we should be number one. We
have to be, because we can't give to others if we're not.
Exactly.
And then we get resentful,
Yeah.
and then we're not our best anyway, because we get snappy and resentful because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
I had a couple of massages this week because my body was not in a good way. And yeah, she was saying that Swedish people were much better at actually, or Swiss, no, it was Swiss people, they're much better at actually having massages and taking care of themselves than Brits. Brits just, they don't really have a massage until they're completely broken. And I
Yeah.
was completely broken. And she said my body was in the worst state she's seen in someone that's 22 years as a massage therapist.
Yeah, I mean, I've just joined massage clubs. I subscribe. I have a massage a month, and I've only just recently done it because I've decided it's essential. It is essential. I need it. Yeah, I'm debating whether I can claim it against tax or not, but as a performer, but
maybe as a performer, I don't know. You have to talk to a accountant about that sort of stuff.
But it is something. I mean, to be a performer, I have to keep my body in a good physical state. Otherwise, I can't do my job, and then I'm in breach of contract.
Yeah, because you do jump around and you do strut a lot on stage, don't you? You're very animated.
It's energy again. It's like it's putting the energy across. If you don't have fun on stage, if you're not putting a good energy, then the audience won't feel it and they won't have a good time. You have to have as good a time on stage as you want your audience to have.
Yeah, starts with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with sound therapy. You know, if my head's not in the right space, I'm not going to give as good a session. So often I will, you know, half an hour before the client arrives, I will take that time for myself, and I will have my intentions of what I want to get, you know, before I've even met the client, of what I want to get out of this session for myself, because I can't provide a good session otherwise. I can't, if I've, you know, I have several jobs. So if I come from another job and my brain is busy thinking about something else, I'm not going to give a good session.
No. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this little video. So is there anything you want to say to close on? We're going to get your details in a minute if anyone wants to get in hold of you, but have you got any words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom before we finish?
No, I just think I think there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily know what sound therapy is. I hope this has enlightened them a bit. I do think it's we need to consider ourselves. We need to think about doing more alternative holistic therapies rather than just turning to the doctor and taking loads of pills. And it is, you know, give it a try, because in my experience, it's really powerful. I haven't had a client that's walked out of the room and not experienced some form of healing. And that's not me blowing my own trumpet. That's the therapy. It's powerful. It works.
So Helen, we're going to put your details below, but you're welcome. How do people get hold of you?
So my name is Helen Hurd, and Hurd is spelled Hurd, so it's Hurd Sound Therapy, so Hurd Sound Therapy. I'm online, I'm on social media, and my website, well, you'll put it down anyway, but it's Hurd Sound Therapy.
And if anyone wants to go through my YouTube, you'll actually see a music video that I shot with Helen a while ago, because she is an amazing rock star, and I'm her getaway driver in a music video.
My getaway driver in one of those clickbait negative stories that I decided to tell in that rock song. Very different, by the way, very different persona to my therapist persona.
You can see both sides of it. So if you just scroll through my videos, you'll see that the covers, like Helen and I sort of looking at each other, like she's running away from a destructive relationship, and I come and rescue her from a nightclub and drive
off like Thelma and Louise.
Hilarious. So you may enjoy seeing another side of Helen's personality, her rock star, as well as the sound therapist. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Helen. And maybe we'll get you on when you've got that new instrument. I do want to know about this 528 hertz. What was it? What do they say? No, it's not 528 gigawatts. What is it they say in Back to the Future?
Oh God. Oh no, now you've got me.
Something gigawatts.
It is, yeah, but I don't know what
528 gigawatts. No, maybe it's not. Something.
I would love it if it is. I'm not sure it is, but I would love it.
Probably isn't.
I'm going to look it up.
We're going to have to look it up. And someone in the comments will let us know, going, no, it's definitely something else.
It's completely different.
Something probably else. Yeah, but it'd be really interesting to hear the sound of those balls and bowls. Is it a crystal ball?
Bowl. It's a bowl. Yeah, bowl, crystal
it's
bowl.
A new bowl that you've got coming in that. And maybe we can maybe hear some more on your what's it called? Monochord. Is it monochord?
Monochord. Yeah.
Maybe when it's tuned, we can get you on to be playing a bit of that so people can experience it a bit more.
Yeah, I'll try and rig up a decent mic so you can hear it properly. It's not as effective, I think, virtually. It never will be, because you need the room, like we talk about with live music. You hear other frequencies within the room, but it will still have an effect. I mean, it definitely still has an effect. But
yeah, if we can have a bit of a try, like listen to you playing that and the amazing interesting bowl, that would be really cool in a few weeks' time when it arrives. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great.
Right. Thank you everyone for watching, and like and subscribe. Thank you. Stop.